On 16 September 1944, under the leadership of Squadron 33 Commander Lieutenant Murray Preston, pt-489, accompanied by pt-363, undertook a daring rescue of a downed Navy pilot. For his leadership in this action, Lieutenant Preston was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Welcome to Scale Model Workshop. In my two-part review of the Revell late production Elco PT boat, my focus was on the review and presenting information pretty much related just to the stock kit in a timely manner. The quality of the construction took a back seat to generating images and clips. As much as this kit has issues, I indicated in the review, the finished model really seems to successfully capture the essence of the subject. In these episodes, I'll be showing some of what I did on the second go-around to modify the kit to represent pt-489, and along the way, I'll show some additional improvements to the basic kit. If you're just tuning in, you might find it helpful to check out the review for a more complete picture of how this kit goes together and some of the basic fixes. pt-489 was one of the first production blocks of what are considered the late series 80-foot Elcos. These boats shared some of the same details of the earlier boats. Most torpedo squadrons were formed up with boats from the same production batch, and they shared a similar basic layout. Squadron 33 came from the States with boats 488 through 497, but once in theater, each crew soon made whatever changes they could to better adapt their boats to their operational needs. This is the only image I could find of pt-489 that shows any detail, so I worked off images of other Squadron 33 boats and tried to incorporate details that seemed to be most common. I found comparing Boat 495 and the kit representation placed in the same setting helpful in visualizing some of what I needed to change. Much of the specific information came by way of the PT forum board, and if you're modeling a PT boat, you need to check out this board because you'll find a wealth of information, along with a tremendously helpful group of members. I put a link to the forum board in the video description. I made a few changes from how I assembled the hull in the review. The fit of the separate stern piece is a bit challenging when it comes to getting everything as flush as possible. What proved most reliable for me was to first make any adjustments that required removal of material. I then cemented a series of tabs along the surfaces that needed to be flush. Once cemented together, the tabs were snipped off. Any residual material was easily removed during the filling and finishing of the gaps. As I showed in the review, the convexity in the starboard bow was corrected along with the removal of the raised ledge that poorly represents the chine. I left a bit of a flat to support the new chine board. In the review, I used 10,000 styrene for the bow plate. This time around I wanted to try something a little more subtle to preserve the elegant lines of the Elco hull, so I used a buildup of lacquer primer. But before removing the tape, it's much cleaner if you sand down to the edges of the mask, and to preserve the thickness of the buildup, it helps to cover the primed area. The mounting of a ship model is an important consideration, and it's best thought out right from the start. To show off the hull lines, I wanted to use an unobtrusive pedestal mount. These were simply fabricated from telescoping brass tube. The hull was aligned over the base, and the tubes were fixed to place with cyanoacrylate and acrylic resin. Stops at the end of the hull tubes maintain the height. In the review, I modified the assembly of the day cabin roof, but I left a small section that was attached to the turret side. This time around I went for the full Monty, and I made the roof one entire piece, keeping everything a lot cleaner. I think the kit's representation of the canvas shield around the aft gun tub looks a bit clunky, so I decided to test my skills with a file. Here's the initial roughing out. I think the open railing enhances the look of the model. The kit's radar and mast represent the final SO-3 installation used on boats produced in 1945. The RON-33 boats were already in service by December of '43 and were equipped with the earlier -1 radar. This drawing shows some of the basic differences, but there were in fact a number of variations in the domes and masts of the -1 units. At first I thought the kit's mast was a pretty close match to the type found on the RON-33 boats, so I stripped the mast down. But as I got more definitive information, it was clear that it would be necessary to build a new one. If you're interested in how I constructed the new unit, I put up a step-by-step supplemental video. Here's the new unit. The chart house assembly sequence presented in the instructions is based on having the roof section removable. I was more interested in having everything fit together properly and having the entire structure removable for painting. I found the following approach to work out better. The kit uses a trough in the deck to locate sections of the chart house, and this results in a few issues. First off, the fit of the starboard side is a bit sloppy, and it seems to leave a more noticeable gap where it meets the deck. To make sure the chart house sides stay as close as possible to the outside of the trough, I cemented in a backing strip. Second, there's a notch in the front corner of each chart house side to engage a little key in the trough. Unless everything fits perfectly, it's easy to have a gap here. I found it worked out better to just remove the keys and fill the notches in the chart house sides with cyanoacrylate and acrylic resin. I used the same method to tighten up around where the gun tub meets the deck. And here's how everything wound up fitting. The chart house walls in the front section were then cemented together. Note that because I'm modeling an earlier production boat, I removed the number boards and the hoods over the front windows. Next comes the inside of the gun tub, and then the little section that extends around the gun tub. This makes it easier to fill and finish the joints. The starboard cockpit wall was then cemented to place, followed by the first section of the starboard bridge wing. Next, the outside of the bridge front and the front cockpit wall were added. The upper edge surrounding the cockpit was finished off as I did in the review, and the remaining sections of the bridge wings were assembled. Note the repositioned running light. I also replaced the kit's round antenna base with the earlier square-type base from a pt109 kit. In Part 2, I'll go through some additional modifications as well as finishing the model. So long for now, and I'll see you next time.